Welcome back to the Visionary Sanctum podcast. Today, the vibe is just going to be a bit different than the other ones, especially with everything that's going on politically. I want to make sure that I touch on that stuff and how it's been affecting me personally and my community within Chicago. So, starting off with our check-in. I'm feeling better, but I've also felt much better than this at one point in time. It's just been really difficult right now. It's been a whole thing trying to mentally, emotionally, spiritually process everything that's going on and trying to figure out, like, how do I be conscious of everything and continue on with life? Because the terror that's happening and life, the chaos and life, they're going to have to coexist. So my emotions have just been trying to navigate that and learn what this new reality is going to look like for me. So for some topics today, we're going to get into like the raids that have been happening here in Chicago, grief, collective grief, some of my personal reflections, what I think my personal role is within the revolution that we're going to experience, kind of inevitable at this point, some community kind of stuff, what I've been telling myself that I want to see or experience in the mindset that has led me to continue to move forward. And our word will be, I'll let y'all listen for the word at the end, okay? Because, I like to preach a little bit. So starting off with the raids. I won't get too much into all the different viral videos and what's on the news, but I will go based off of my experience and what I have seen. So September 28th, I was downtown with some friends and I said, let's go sit down at the Riverwalk. These are friends from out of town. They don't live here. We were all very surprised by what we saw when we got down there. We sit at the little benches. There's some music playing behind us. People having brunch. It's a nice, cool, breezy day. People are walking their dogs. Everybody's having a good time. And then I see a boat with men wearing military fatigue. I was like, what's this? I'm squinting because I don't have my glasses on. And it gets closer and I realize it's Border Patrol. I'm like, Border Patrol in the Chicago River? The Chicago River? Like, what border is over here? That's weird. And then another boat comes. And then another boat comes. And the fourth boat comes and there's a man standing in the front of the boat with a large, like M80, like a large automatic weapon, just posing. Nobody's posing on the other boats, but this guy's posing with a massive weapon face down. And I'm like getting really loud with my friends. I'm just like, do you see this? Like, what is, I'm going off. And he awkwardly like turns towards me holding his big old gun. And I'm like, what is happening? Now, luckily it didn't necessarily escalate from there. He just awkwardly put the gun on the inside of the boat. Because that's just not something you just hold for, like, to be cute. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. And it kind of killed the vibe for me seeing my friends that I haven't seen in a while that are out of state and realizing like just how bad it's getting. Now, I knew it was bad. I'm not in denial, being Black in America, right? And then I've been seeing the terror that ICE has been wreaking throughout these American cities online. And so I felt like that was severe. But to see that made it even more real than it already was. I go home, I go online, and right where we were at the Riverwalk, I guess a couple hours prior to us having brunch in that area, Border Patrol had done this full parade down the street across the bridge before they got on those boats and started floating around. They were over there by Millennium Park, snatching up Latino families and their children, like just a nice Sunday out. Ruined, destroyed, crazy, all for the sake of political theater, just sick. I'm like, what? So things continue to escalate from there. Like, stuff's getting worse and worse and worse. They started Midway Blitz, and they've been having a blitz. That's for sure. Tear gas, helicopters, seeing people thrown on the ground. The protests escalated by ICE, by Border Patrol, and now being escalated by state police in front of that Broadway facility that they have out there. And I'm like, this is only getting worse. This is only getting scarier. What really was a catalyst for me was what happened in South Shore. Like my motivation to do anything after that, like really, really shot down. It was already on a slow decline, but that really took the cake. Finding out that folks are in their homes and at 1 a.m, there's 300 federal agents. They were assisted by the FBI, Homeland Security was, agents being repelled on top of an apartment building like it's a fucking action film, I guess. And people being ripped out of their homes. It's just like, what do you do when you go online, if you're watching the news, if you're getting the pamphlets from these wonderful community organizers in the street saying, know your rights, but what do you do when the person who's perpetuating the violence doesn't give a fuck about your rights? You can say, do you have a judicial warrant, or you got the wrong place, and they don't care. They're ripping you out of your home anyway. They don't care about your rights. They don't care about your paperwork. It's rip you out of your home, and you don't have to say, oh, well, you don't need to open the door. You have the right to keep the door closed if they don't have a judicial warrant. You don't have to let them in your home. They ripped down their doors. Children with no clothes on being zip tied and thrown into the back of U-Hauls. It's nuts. And they were outside for a couple of hours. And then on top of that, not only did they take people out of their homes, they intentionally caused damage to the building. So I'm like, I can't even imagine something that horrific happening in the middle of the night, being pulled outside like that, and then coming into my home that is no longer inhabitable anymore. And they did this intentionally in a low-income neighborhood, and I guess that building was under foreclosure. It's owned by KKR, another building owned by KKR, and I think Aurora, Colorado, the same thing happened. So people have their theories around that. In South Shore, they just got some renter rights protections because people are concerned about being displaced with incoming rate hikes because of the Obama Center down there. Or I should say down there, Obama Center over here. And the rate hikes are going to go up. Everybody's property value is going to go up. So property taxes, all that stuff. It is inevitable. It's going to happen. But at least gave people more time to figure it out. This gives people no choice. And so, of course, the concern is this going to happen to it's going to happen to a bunch of people? These are American citizens, Black American citizens primarily. And then many of the migrants that were in that building were detained, no due process, taken to a detention center. Everything that happened to each individual person in that building was horrific. And it started to make me think, what's next? Like, if this is my new reality, am I safe to go to work? Am I going to get stopped? Because if they're pulling Black people out as well, like, it started to make me think, well, what happens to me? Like, am I safe going to work since they're just grabbing any and every U.S. citizen? It don't matter. Not asking people their names, not asking for documents, nothing. Just you. Zip ties, disappearance. I even started to, when we're going into the grief aspect, I started to feel like, well, what's the point of even trying? Like, I have all these hopes and dreams and goals and things like that. Do these things even matter anymore if everything is going to shit? And my only concern right now is my physical safety and the physical safety of my community. Does it matter that I want to continue to make documentaries and tell stories? Does it matter that I want to start a family one day? Will I even get to start a family one day? Will this shit be burned to the motherfucking ground by then under an authoritarian dictatorship? Like, what is... That was a hell of a hole to dig myself out of, because I was out of commission for a good, I want to say like nearly 12 days. I'm just like, I don't even know the point of trying is. Like, I was supposed, within that time frame, I was supposed to be working on or prepping this episode. That's why this episode is coming to you a bit late. But I was trying to understand how does the life that I want to live, how does that all fit into this chaos that is probably going to continue to escalate, unfortunately? Within all the feelings that I had, eventually I had gone to this church I normally go to, and I started talking to one of the members there. And she is incredible, like the best hugger, such a sweetheart. And like I didn't expect to get as emotional as I was talking about it. Like I was about to cry, and I was like looking at her, and I could see that she was about to cry because I was about to cry, and it was just a lot. But even with that, I could see like I'm not the only one. I didn't think I was the only one, but it really said, and I was not the only one feeling this collective grief, this collective weight. And it was nice to be able to discuss these feelings and concerns within community, and realizing like, of course I know I'm not alone, but like to really feel it, and for that to really set in that I'm not alone and feel it physically in person was a beautiful experience. And it helped me to get out of that rut, because at the end of the day, stuff like this, civil unrest, government instability, that stuff is not new. It might be new to me in my own personal experience in this lifetime, but history does repeat itself. And if it were not for the incredible resilience of my ancestors, I would not be here today. So I owe it to them to try my best to get out of this rut and try. I think I was in a space where I was like, ooh, might as well just everything in life just stop, just stand still. But all the hard work that came before me, I think of it as almost like a personal debt. I got to pay it forward. I got to pay it back. I got to do the best that I can do, because for my ancestors in situations where they're facing where violence or death at times may have always felt imminent or close or a constant looming threat, and they've managed to protect their families and live full lives, I can do it too. And I owe it to them to put my best foot forward. So that's where I'm at now. I think I was in a mindset where I thought, if I'm continuing to move forward with life and continuing to strive for my hopes and dreams, despite all the crazy shit that's happening now, that means I'm being selfish, that I feel guilty. Like if I turn my head to the left this way, then what's all happening here on the right, I'm taking my eyes completely off of that and just, not paying attention and allowing that stuff to happen. This shit is not my fault. I'm not allowing anything to happen. This stuff is out of most of our control. The best I can do is actively resist. And so that brings us to me getting my shit together and recording this podcast episode. I'm going to continue to grow this platform and tell stories of incredible people in my community. I'm going to expand it a bit beyond just this platform being about artists, but essentially visionaries in general. So people who are visionaries within their community, organizers, nonprofit leaders, all that stuff, in addition to the artists that I have. Most of the time, these things overlap anyway. So I think it'll be nice to further solidify that community spirit that we have going on over here. There's a couple more of my personal reflections that I'm going to mention. Aside from some of the stuff I just listed off, I had a journal entry within that 12-day period that I just mentioned. I had titled it Raided. During this time, it feels like my energy has been raided, filled with joy, and then ransacked by white supremacy, fascism, and capitalism. I deserve better, and the people around me deserve better. I don't know how this all plays out, but I just hope that I'm okay. I want to hop back into the stride of promise, hopes, dreams, love, building a little family of my own, and continuing to build a beautiful, thriving community around me. Also within that time, I worked a bit. So there were some events, and there were corporate events. And honestly, while I was in that rut, it really felt like some Black Mirror shit. That's what I wrote. Like hearing these metrics and I don't know, just a bunch of stupid shit that didn't matter. I'm like, really? They're going to have an event about this stupid stuff? And it doesn't even matter. Like people out here dying. People are out here getting snatched up in the streets, kidnapped, separated from their families, being put from the homes in the middle of the night. And you want to talk about KPIs? And that's why they have me behind the scenes at that place. I had also journaled about, while I was going through this grieving process, feeling activated. At one point in time in high school, people were calling me, my family was calling me a freaking radical. I don't think I'm a radical in the way that they were describing. But I mean, it's not a negative thing to be radical, but they were trying to make it like okay, Malcolm X, girl. I don't know if it's giving all that, but I did feel activated, kind of like it's that energy of activism. Again, I think part of what led me away from activism in the way that I thought I would engage with it in high school is capitalism. I learned just how expensive life is and the economy from me being in high school to now. Within that time of high school, I had thought I was going to go that activism route, but capitalism kind of messed things up. We had that sharp incline of inflation that none of us saw coming back in 2015, 2016. I got concerned with, renting things. And then I was like, man, if life is this expensive, I need to be worried about paying the bills. I don't know how activism and fighting for the people will allow me to survive, which is the reality that many of us face. And I think that is why the system is set up that way. You have to spend so much time concentrating on trying to build your livelihood that you have less energy and less time to resist. At least that's what it feels like. I also, before I went to college, had a limited scope of what resistance even looked like. Now that I got this little piece of sociology degree, a bachelor's to be exact. Now that I got a piece of this sociology degree, I understand that when we talk about systemic oppression, it affects every single aspect of your life, like every teeny tiny little thing. So when we think of resistance, sometimes resistance at work is something small, like somebody's talking to you crazy and demeaning you. You simply just don't respond to that behavior. Or somebody's trying to label you as big, black, scary, and aggressive, like a lot of Black women get because they're being quiet. Instead of trying to perform to that, you just continue to show up as yourself in the best way that you know how. And if it's working, it's working. If it's not, you try your best to, find something else that would be an act of resistance, because trying to hold up the mask is exhausting. And even holding up that mask, they still find a reason not to like you. And so it got me back into thinking about the stuff that I learned in college and actively using this little piece of degree about ways that I can resist. So one way that I can resist is being conscious of what's happening, helping out people directly that I know where I can. Maybe participating in mutual aid. I see a lot of opportunities to donate in that fashion as well. Food, anything that's everything, providing a space for people to be and experience and feel joy during a rough time. Waking up each day and deciding that I'm going to live, and choosing to live rather than being in fear and pausing like I thought I was going to do is an act of resistance, because they want you to stop. They want you to freeze. They want you to be scared. And we're just not going for that. And that's not neglecting reality. It's being conscious of both reality and your strength. Let's get a little bit deeper into the resistance aspect, because when I did a little overview of our topic today, I said, what is my role in the revolution? The revolution will not be televised, which I don't know, maybe it's kind of ironic that I'm saying that because I'm making this for this to go on the mini screen, but we'll get into that. VisionarySanctum, my short tagline that I had, was originally a sacred home for a creative. We're going to switch that to a sacred home for a visionary, which is fun. So we'll have more visionaries in general, whether they're artists or not. And then since I have this platform, what has helped me cope with this situation is understanding that media is my personal contribution to this all. I would like to provide space eventually, but right now media is it. So I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to write. I'm going to trust that I'm covered in the blood, Jesus and whatnot, but not joking. Trust that I'm protected, and I'm going to do God's work and show up and speak and platform others that can speak. That's what I can do right now. I had a conversation between now on the previous episode with another creative. He does post-production. I think he directs too. There's a lot of really cool media stuff, media professional. And his name is Sam. And he told me, or asked me some really thoughtful questions, which was, where do you see VisionarySanctum outside of you? And what role do you want to focus on in production? And it really got me thinking about impact. Like, what do I want this to do? What do I want this to grow to? Because sometimes I'm sure my anxious girlies can relate to this, but my previous issue was always constantly thinking way too far in the future. And I was not getting anything done because I was thinking way too far ahead and not actively doing the steps that I need to make now in order to build to get to where I felt like I wanted to go. So I became very locked in. I became very present on each project, one project at a time. My main goal consistently, and then improving the quality of the work as time goes on. So when he asked that question, I was like, It's so funny that you brought that up because I recently saw something with Issa Rae. And Issa Rae, she was doing like this interview talking about her experience, talking about when she finally became stable and all that stuff. I'm like, that stuff sounds kind of recent. Let me look at this timeline. And she started the YouTube like 12, 15 years ago, and then got that show 5 to 7 years in, and then that's when she had become financially stable, able to live off of the media projects that she was doing. And then she even described the ups and downs before then with Awkward Black Girl and all that stuff. And it was very interesting seeing this timeline. I'm not comparing myself to that timeline per se, but it's very realistic. It wasn't super slow, but it wasn't incredibly fast either, and allowed her to gain time and experience. And she didn't necessarily have that formal training either in the industry until she got in the industry to learn. And I think that's a process that I'm learning because I didn't go to school for all this stuff. And so it became a little bit difficult for me to fully imagine what do I want this to become if I don't have that formal training and I don't know every aspect of what could come. But looking at that similarly, I see myself as having a full-blown Black-owned, because I'm Black, just in case you didn't know, a full-on Black-owned media production company. I don't see myself doing the podcasting thing forever. I know eventually I would like to get more inside of creative direction, and so I'm showing my skills by doing all tasks, the editing, the directing, camera operating, the writing, all that stuff. But I know for sure I just want to concentrate on direction and hoping to do more in that facet. But with that question, I'm like, maybe I should think even bigger without losing sight of what's in front of me. And then after that conversation, a few days later is when I saw the stuff with the raids. That's what made me think I might need to do some even deeper reimagining of what this platform is going to be. So now I can confidently say, girl, I don't fucking know. All that to say, I don't know. I don't know all of what it's going to be, but I can say what it is today. And it is a growing media company, a growing media platform where we're going to platform members of our community and uplift the voices of underserved communities. Okay? That's what we're doing. We're going to lift the voices of people in the community doing impactful work in hopes that it will inspire others to do the same, to get up, go out there and start and be free to exist as themselves. But with the way things are, some of these new laws, the heightened surveillance that we're all going to be on online, I don't know exactly what media is going to continue to look like as time goes on within the climate that we exist in. But I suppose I will be a part of that new generation of media professionals who are navigating that space of heightened surveillance and increased policing more than before. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm up to it and we're going to figure it out together. So on a lighter note, we'll get into some fun community things that I did get myself into because we talked about living life as an act of resistance. I did go out. This past week, somebody invited me to a class about gourds. I also went out, or like pumpkin squash and stuff. I also went out to this underground party. That was cool. And since it's underground, I think that's all I can say about it. And then I went to a party that was above ground, so underground, below ground. And this weekend was a very healing experience. And it reminded me of my actual goals, what I had set out to do before things politically have gotten increasingly worse since the chaos around us all has gotten increasingly worse. It helped me to set sights back on what I truly want and the community that I want to build and growing myself as an artist. One thing I feel like I've mentioned earlier on this podcast is my goal to be a popular loner, that I want to just see what there's to do, go there and then see people I know. And that underground shit, I did see somebody who is incredible at what they do, and they knew who I was. So I've never actually seen that person before, and not that I've never seen them. That's not true. That person, I never talked to them before. I have been in the same room as them. So they had mentioned to me somewhere else that they see me at, and I didn't see them there at all. So I thought it was crazy that they remember me there, but I actually met them before somewhere, or seen them before somewhere else. And I'm like, dang, like, I'm getting a bit closer. I'm getting a bit warmer. And then a couple other things I went to. Of course, there was a couple other people I knew there, but that particular one, that was random. But now I have some fun Halloween plans, and I'm excited about that. I think now I'm going to be focused on living it up a bit more. I've been a bit tense. I haven't partied very much at all for somebody my age. Like me hitting that ripe old age of 25. I haven't really clubbed. I haven't really danced everywhere. And now I want to dance. Now I want to let loose. And I'm seeing right now, while I do have the bit of freedom we currently got, I should absolutely be taking advantage of the bit of freedom that we got now, because things are going to change. You know, I would love to believe that this is going to turn around tomorrow, but the more that I'm listening to the types of conversations people are having, the more that I get out of denial and really come to terms with the fact that people are ignorant as fuck. I'm realizing this ain't over until the ignorant people, the people who are just, it's not clocking to them. Until they feel the burn, we all gonna feel it. That's the universe. That's energy. That is the way that we are all energetically interconnected with each other. This is what happens. We all pay collectively. I don't think this is going to be fun, but I do think that this is something that we're going to get through. And you know what? We're going to make this the word. I don't think this revolution stuff is going to be fun. I think it's going to be very difficult. I think, unfortunately, people are going to lose their lives within the process. But I do know that the other side of the revolution will be something beautiful beyond comprehension. I think that this time is going to pull something out of people that they never knew that they had, the ability to resist in ways that they did not know that they could, or did not think that they had the courage or the strength to do out of necessity. When you get to the point where you have no choice but to protest, but to go hard, you learn different things about yourself. And there's a lot of people who've never been in the position to have to do so ever in their entire lives, until, even if it's not now, soon it's coming. You got to do something. You got to say something. Okay. I think that when it comes to community, we're going to build stronger communities. I think as time has gone on, and with the internet and us just not being as interconnected in person, not necessarily because internet, but COVID really did some damage on that. We haven't been looking at our neighbors. We haven't been doing the block parties the way that people have. People are going to know their neighbors again. People are going to be sharing sugar and loaves of bread and dinner when groceries continue to get even more expensive and even more crazy, and it becomes even more difficult to survive. People will learn the power of depending on your neighbors. And for people who grew up, unfortunately, only leaning on their nuclear family, many of us around the world don't just rely on our nuclear families, by the way. But for those of y'all who did, you're going to have to call on your cousins. You're going to have to call on your aunties and build those stronger bonds. I think people will learn just how vibrant your life can be when you are relying on your community. People will also learn within this time just how self-sufficient they can be within their communities. That one day you wake up and you look around and you say, maybe this government shit can go up and down, but at the very least, we got each other. That's going to be a long journey. But if we know anything about history, it's the fact that it does repeat itself. And that means really fucked up things happen and these waves, and it rocks society, and then they end. We get to the other side of those things. Things drastically change. We live in that change. The wave comes again, it ebbs, it flows. And I'm trying to gear up for what's to come, and we'll go through that journey together. I'm going to leave the episode at that today. So y'all stay tuned. I talked about having visionaries. We got some visionaries upcoming that are going to be a little bit different from some of the traditional mediums that we discussed so far with our lovely guests, Essence and Chris, first one. And I think y'all are going to enjoy the direction that this show is continuing to go. So until next time, bye.